Throughout 2024, the Middle East has been consumed by conflict, with the shockwaves of a war in the Gaza Strip rippling out to affect much of the region. During that time, the Israeli military, Hamas, Hezbollah and other armed groups have regularly uploaded footage of their soldiers in frontline action. These dramatic clips are often hard to verify, but by piecing together videos from all sides of the battlefield, ODN has been able to chart the changing nature of the war on the ground. Here you can watch our full series, showing intense combat footage from Gaza, Lebanon and beyond, as one of the bloodiest years in recent history draws to a close.
بسم الله الله أكبر بسم الله الله
יש לנו פה קלאץ' רוסי, עוד קלאץ' רוסי וקלאץ' סיני.
אנחנו זיהינו פה פיר מנהרה שחודר פנימה. הפיר הזה מגיע מכיוון המסגד.
The city of Khan Younis has seen some of the most intense fighting since the war in Gaza began. Now resembling a vast urban wasteland, Israel has claimed victory over Hamas here. But how much control do they really have? And how did the battle for Khan Younis unfold? Israeli ground forces entered the city after a huge aerial bombardment in early December, and have spent 2 months attempting to root out the Hamas leadership and search for any signs of the hostages still being held by the militant group. But so far, Hamas's top commanders, including its leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, have evaded capture. It's thought they're still likely to be in Khan Younis, using a tunnel and bunker network which is much more extensive than Israeli planners first thought. Those tunnels are being discovered and destroyed, but it's slow going. Israeli soldiers have used everything from remote cameras to smoke grenades to assess the extent of this underground labyrinth. Occasionally, the IDF come across a tunnel that seems purpose-built for holding captives, but none of the 130 or so remaining hostages have been successfully recovered. Videos posted by Hamas show its fighters are still able to effectively ambush their enemy, remaining concealed and using the tunnels to escape. Israeli troops who have returned from the front line have confirmed that direct encounters with militants are rare, with Hamas forces preferring to use hit-and-run guerrilla tactics. Speaking to Reuters, an Israeli officer claimed that Hamas's Khan Younis brigade was the group's most powerful military unit, with a pre-war strength of 5 battalions. Nevertheless, the balance of casualties in the battle is indicative of Israel's vastly superior firepower. Israel's defense minister has claimed that 10,000 Hamas militants have been killed and around the same number wounded. According to the IDF, 224 Israeli troops have been killed in Gaza since the ground operation began in late October. Although most civilians evacuated Khan Younis when the siege began, those that remain face a daily battle for survival. A cameraman working for ITV News filmed the moments just before and after a Palestinian man was fatally shot by Israeli gunfire in the city. And the residents who have fled their homes have little to return to when the battle for Khan Younis finally ends. As many as half of the buildings within the city have now been destroyed or damaged, according to recent analysis. On the 1st of February, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced that Hamas forces in Khan Younis had officially been defeated. But with Hamas leaders still on the run, hostages still out of reach, and an admission from Israeli sources that full operational control has not yet been achieved, how realistic is that claim? Until a negotiated settlement is reached in this conflict, this suffering in Khan Younis is likely to continue. And now Rafah, a city in the far south of Gaza, which is hosting the vast majority of Gaza's 2.3 million displaced people, could be next in line for a ground assault.
15 שניות.
RPG. תוציא הכל.
This is the entrance to the hospital. This is the Qatari building.
يا رب سدد يا رب. الله أكبر.
ארבע איתך. ארבע איתך. שומר.
فلقيت الاليات اللي حكيش منها انا بدنا كمين اللي هو ايش؟ هو بيسموه بالسيره في هذه المنطقه.
تفحموا جوا.
دباب يا رب ثبت. بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله يا رب يا رب ثبت يا رب. الله اكبر يا رب.
للشيخ صالح رحمة الله عليه. جاهز؟ الله أكبر الله أكبر. يلا روح. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
שלוש שונים בידי, שלוש שונים. עזוב את הדרום, הוא חלט אתכם כאילו. יש.
خد العجل يا عبود، عبود امسك يا عبود.
يلا زوق ايده على المخات التابوت يا بني السائق انتوا وين؟ قبل الخال
The war in Gaza has now lasted almost a year. And while Israel's attention has recently moved to its northern border with Lebanon, it's clear that Hamas is still resisting Israeli forces inside the Gaza Strip. Throughout the war, both sides have filmed and posted footage of their soldiers on the front line. Such video releases are now less common from the IDF, which says its ground operations inside the Strip are largely concluded. But Hamas has maintained a steady stream of uploads to social media, perhaps in an attempt to show that it is still militarily capable. While the timing and precise location of these clips is often hard to verify, they are useful in showing how Hamas continues to wage its guerrilla campaign against the Israelis. In this clip, we reportedly see Hamas operatives planning and executing an ambush of IDF vehicles in the southern city of Rafah. Most hostile encounters captured on camera are much smaller in scale, targeting individual groups of soldiers or isolated vehicles. Hamas also appears to be relying heavily on skilled snipers to target enemy soldiers from a distance. Despite Israel destroying dozens of Hamas tunnels since the start of the war, it's clear that some are still being used to launch ambushes. This video was reportedly filmed in Khan Younis. While Hamas's stores of military hardware are certainly depleted, they also occasionally show videos of their fighters using rocket launchers and mortars. Occasionally, they also acquire captured or abandoned IDF equipment, as shown in this clip. While the world's attention is focused on Lebanon and the risks of a wider conflict igniting in the Middle East, Hamas continues to try and convince the world that it has not been totally destroyed as a military force.
Israeli ground forces launched raids into southern Lebanon last night, escalating the conflict with Hezbollah. So far, it's unclear how many troops are involved in what the IDF calls a limited, localized and targeted operation. Any ground attack carries risks, as Hezbollah has been preparing to defend the region since the last major conflict in 2006. Israel has also intensified airstrikes on Hezbollah's strongholds ahead of its ground invasion. Smoke rose over Beirut's southern suburbs this morning after more strikes against the capital. The IDF targeted weapon depots and missile launchers near the border, citing threats to northern Israel.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting limited and targeted raids along Israel's northern border against the threat Hezbollah poses to civilians in northern Israel. These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim and communities along our border. Hezbollah turned Lebanese villages next to Israeli villages into military bases, all ready for an attack on Israel.
Mass evacuations were ordered as the Israeli military hit villages near Lebanon's southern border. Over 1,000 people have been killed in Lebanon in the past 2 weeks, according to the country's health ministry. Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged fire almost daily since the war in Gaza began. The Israeli military has vowed to neutralize Hezbollah and secure the return of displaced Israeli families. Prime Minister Netanyahu has promised to ensure safety for the Israeli border communities. Tensions heightened last week after Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Hezbollah's acting leader, named Qasim, promised the group will fight on following his death. Along with operations in Lebanon, Israeli strikes also hit Syria and Gaza yesterday, as Israel continues to fight on multiple fronts in the region.
Over the past few days, the conflict between Lebanon's Hezbollah and Israel has continued to escalate, with the Israeli military announcing it has begun moving ground troops into southern Lebanon after days of strikes on the capital Beirut. Hezbollah, which is thought to have tens of thousands of well-trained fighters, has said it's ready for a direct confrontation. Gun battles have ensued since the offensive began, with Israeli forces clashing with Hezbollah militants in at least 2 towns near the border. During these firefights, at least 8 Israeli soldiers, including an army squad commander, have been killed in 2 separate events. Hezbollah are also thought to have taken losses, with the IDF claiming their ground forces have killed militants in close-range combat. So what's the aim of Israel's ground invasion? The IDF claims the operation will comprise limited, localized and targeted raids against Hezbollah, and have sent warnings to Lebanese civilians living near the southern border. Around 50 villages have been told to evacuate and head north. The Israelis will be particularly focused on targeting Hezbollah tunnels and infrastructure, which they claim pose an immediate threat to Israeli communities in northern Israel. These videos posted by the IDF supposedly show some of Hezbollah's tunnel network, which contain heavy weaponry and explosives. Like Hamas, Hezbollah is thought to operate an intricate and complex network of tunnels, as well as bunkers and military infrastructure. But the Iran-backed group has suffered serious setbacks from the exploding pager attacks, losses in its commanding ranks, including the group's leader Hassan Nasrallah, and months of covert IDF operations targeting its bunkers and tunnels. Israeli military action in Lebanon has already resulted in dire civilian casualties. According to Lebanese officials, more than 1,000 people have been killed by Israel in the past 2 weeks, including hundreds of women and children. Around 1 million people have been displaced across Lebanon since Israel began its shelling. More fighting in Lebanon can be expected, with Israel sending thousands of additional troops and artillery to the border to support the infantry and tank units operating there already. Hezbollah, meanwhile, has been preparing for an attack of this kind for 2 decades, since the last major conflict in 2006, and will be confident of inflicting heavy losses on the invaders.
هذا الشيء كله عم يهجر العالم، في أطفال عم تموت ونساء، في عالم انظلمت، في شهداء راح كرمال يدافعوا عن هذا الوطن.
هذا الطوفان هو حدث غير عادي، هو حدث استثنائي.
Four teenage IDF soldiers have been killed in a Hezbollah drone attack on an Israeli military base. It's one of the biggest attacks against an Israeli position since the war started. Although few details were initially released, it was confirmed that a UAV launched from Lebanon targeted the army base in Binyamina, located between Haifa and Tel Aviv. More than 50 people were injured, most of whom were thought to have been in a communal canteen at the time of the attack. Some of the injured were rushed to hospitals with helicopters deployed to the site. 7 people were severely wounded. The drone managed to evade Israel's usually stringent air defense system, raising serious concerns. This comes as heavy Israeli shelling continues to target Beirut and southern Lebanon, with strikes killing 51 people across the country on Sunday. Israeli airstrikes have caused serious damage to parts of Lebanon, with drone footage revealing the devastation to this marketplace in Nabatea, where a mosque and surrounding buildings were battered by Israeli attacks over the weekend. Meanwhile, on the ground, the IDF are targeting Hezbollah tunnels. In this video, the IDF claimed to have found a tunnel a few hundred meters from a UN peacekeeping force base along the border. The tunnel contained a weapon cache with explosives, bullets, and camouflage uniforms. The UN has accused the IDF of forcing its way into a peacekeeping base in southern Lebanon. They claim 2 IDF tanks destroyed the base's main gate and fired rounds nearby. Israel says it encroached on the position to evacuate injured soldiers. This comes after Israel issued repeated warnings urging the UN to leave southern Lebanon.
This dramatic footage, first shown on Israeli TV, reportedly shows IDF reservists battling Hezbollah militants close to the entrance of a tunnel in southern Lebanon. After an exchange of gunfire, Israeli troops use grenades to enter the building before a wounded soldier is evacuated. It shows the changing nature of the war since Israel's ground invasion of the country began in early October. For months, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah appeared limited to exchanges of missiles across the border. But now, engagements are being fought at much closer quarters. One of Israel's stated aims is to destroy the Hezbollah tunnel network, which allows militants to move unseen close to their border. Just like in Gaza, these tunnels also have the potential to allow small numbers of fighters to mount an effective guerrilla resistance. In this video, a suspected Hezbollah militant emerges from a tunnel shaft after a tense exchange with Israeli troops.
طلع ايديك شوي شوي، طلع ايدك الثاني، اطلع شوي شوي، اطلع شوي شوي، اطلع شوي شوي. اطلع شوي 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 شوي.
Where possible, the IDF tries to take out opponents without putting its own ground troops at risk. These clips show Hezbollah fighters being targeted from above by drones. Unlike Hamas, Hezbollah has released only a few clips of their armed forces in frontline combat since the invasion began. Though they do occasionally release slick propaganda videos to show off their military capabilities. This one reportedly shows their elite Radwan forces in training. While this one was published to mark 1 year of war with Israel. With more Israeli troops now entering Lebanon to increase the scope of their ground operations, it seems unlikely that this conflict will be resolved anytime soon.
يلا ساعة
Intense fighting continues between the IDF and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, with the Israeli military confirming its ground operation is expanding. While Israeli missiles continue to pound the capital Beirut, and Hezbollah rockets fall on villages in northern Israel, it's clear that the two sides are engaging in close combat in various locations. This week, the IDF suffered its deadliest day since the invasion of Lebanon began, with 6 more casualties, bringing the official number of troops lost to 47. At least 3,200 people have been killed in Lebanon since the war began, most of them civilians. The IDF has released numerous videos of its troops in gun battles, some of them focused around the village of Aitarun. Despite being almost flattened by Israeli airstrikes, the IDF has continued to face resistance in this border village. But its latest operations are reportedly reaching new targets belonging to the militant group, including weapons depots, command posts, and tunnels. Hezbollah has also released clips of its fighters in action, carefully edited to hide identities and locations of those involved. The videos show militants operating drones, mortars, rocket launchers, and guided missiles. The few glimpses we get of Hezbollah fighters on the ground are usually through the lens of IDF drones. In this clip, a lone militant fires towards unseen targets. Before being taken out in an airstrike. It remains to be seen just how far the expansion of Israel's ground invasion will reach into Lebanon.
يا رب
بجنود لا قبل لهم بهم ولنخرجنهم منها أذلة وهم صاغرون.
اسلح اسلح.
يا رب سيدي اللهم سدد يا رب سدد.
While a ceasefire might have brought a temporary halt to the fighting in Lebanon, there's no such respite for Gaza. Here, the Israel Defense Forces and Hamas continue their brutal struggle in the ruins of Rafah, Khan Younis, and Jabalia. These clips posted over the last month on social media by both sides are hard to verify, but give a sense of the changing nature of the conflict on the ground. Despite months of occupation by the IDF, it's clear that few places in the Gaza Strip have truly been secured. Israeli soldiers must move quickly between buildings, occasionally using smoke screens, such as the risk of being targeted by militant snipers. Videos posted by Hamas glorify sharpshooters who lie in wait for Israeli patrols. Even Israeli soldiers inside armoured vehicles aren't safe. Hamas propaganda videos celebrate attacks on IDF tanks and bulldozers, often using rocket-propelled grenades at close range. Occasionally, militants even plant explosives on tanks by hand. The IDF, meanwhile, focus on identifying and eliminating targets from above. In this video, an IDF drone tracks Hamas operatives as they reveal the entrance to a tunnel. The IDF's priority continues to be the dismantling of the militant group's underground infrastructure, much of which still remains hidden. And operations in another theatre also appear to be ratcheting up in intensity. While nighttime raids against supposed terrorist hideouts are common in the West Bank, videos of much larger scale daytime operations have emerged in the past month. This one in Kabatia resulted in the deaths of 3 Hamas militants. Other groups, including Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are now also posting highly edited clips showing insurgents launching hit-and-run raids against Israeli troops. Overall, prospects for a de-escalation here seem remote in the near future. And it remains to be seen how an incoming US administration will impact the spiraling violence.